This is the Agoro Carbon Farming Podcast. Agoro Carbon Alliance is taking action on a global scale to reverse the effects of climate change by decarbonizing farming and restoring carbon to the world's soil. On this podcast, we're going to explore carbon farming from the soil to the atmosphere and how it affects everyone in between. To learn more, visit us at agorocarbonalliance.com. Welcome to the Ag Carbon Podcast by Agoro Carbon. Have you ever wondered how carbon farming might fit into your operation? Well, in this episode, we're going to hear from Andre Rauch from Starvation Farms in Lexington, Oregon, who's been implementing no-till practices in conjunction with the Agoro Carbon program. He'll share how this initiative has shifted his perspective on agriculture and what you can expect if you're considering adding carbon to your farm strategy. Andre, thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about Starvation Farms.
I guess I'll start out with how the name came to be, because everyone seems to ask that.
Yeah, that's an interesting name.
That came from my grandpa. There's kind of two stories behind it. One is that the main part of the farm is near a place called Starvation Ridge.
Oh.
But then also he named it during the Great Depression at a time when the farm was really struggling and barely made it through. And he was telling me he had to take rabbits into town and trade them for eggs and things to make it by. So farming where we farm, it's extremely dry, and the name is kind of fitting some years.
What crops do you grow there on the ranch?
We're a dryland cereals, so primarily wheat. We do try to grow some other crops, but the financials aren't quite as great on anything else except for wheat. We grow wheat, barley, oats, did some camelina, some safflower last year, spring wheat, a few other small experiments, but it's probably 90% wheat and then 10% barley on an average year.
Is your grandfather still alive? Is he still petering around the farm?
No, he passed away a few years ago. Well, I guess 12 years ago or so now. It's just me and my dad and my mom running the farm now.
Oh, okay. And did he start the farm?
No, so I'm actually fifth generation. It was my great-great-grandpa.
Oh.
He passed it on, and it's just gone down the family tree. And me and my dad and my brother-in-law are coming in, and my mom, and we're a family-owned and run operation.
Like many of the ranches and farms in the United States, which we love, these family-owned farms. Tell us a little bit about how you heard about carbon farming in general, and then how did you become acquainted with Agoro Carbon?
Yeah, the concept was fairly new to us. I hadn't really heard about it. My dad read it in a farming magazine. I don't remember which one, but it had a list of different companies that were starting up programs to buy carbon from farmers. After going through and seeing what they offered, we liked Agoro the best. And then it just so happened at that same time, Devin Moon, who's a friend of ours and farms across the river from us, was also talking to you guys. And so we were talking with Devin while we were talking with Agoro, and liked what you were offering and decided to participate.
I'm curious, what interested your father when he read this in the magazine? What piqued his interest and thought, hey, let's find out a little bit more about this?
To be frank, money.
Of course.
We were seeing there was an opportunity for additional revenue streams. And a lot of the things that they were paying farmers to do were things that we already did. And we were looking to expand, and we had new ground that was not no-tilled. It was conventionally fallowed and didn't have any of these practices. So we had an opportunity to get an extra revenue stream and help cover some of those costs of converting a piece of ground from conventional fallow to no-till.
Oh, interesting. So you were already a no-till operation on some of your acres.
Yeah.
What did you find by doing and implementing no-till? What benefits did you find?
Yeah, my dad would probably be the better one to answer that, because I can't remember a time when we didn't no-till. I drove the rod weeders when I was maybe 6 and have never been on them since. My dad has always been an early adopter, and he converted to no-till close to 30 years ago. For me, what I see comparing us to our neighbors is we're a little more resilient. On the dry years, our crop can hold on a little longer. We don't have any issues with erosion. We don't have any issues with emergence of the crop from crusting or issues that the conventional fallow people have. There's pros and cons to going no-till versus conventional fallow, but I really think that the pros outweigh the cons.
The new ground that you acquired that was conventionally farmed, and now you're trying to convert to no-till. What operational changes do you have to make to go no-till, and are the costs substantial, and that's why this Agoro Carbon program made it make more sense for you to do the conversion?
Yeah, from us, from an operational standpoint, it's fairly simple because the rest of our ground we're already farming in that manner.
Ah,
The kind of the cost I allude to is we've seen in the past the first couple years when we convert something from conventional fallow to no-till, it's not yielding as well. We do have more issues with weeds. There is a transition period where it seems like it takes a while for that no-till to really start paying benefits.
mm.
And it might take 4 years. And so the first couple crops we're on it'll be our third crop on that piece of ground now. And I think we're finally starting to get to the point where the no-till is going to really pay off. But the first few, we probably would have been better if we had conventional fallow, but it's a long-term payoff when you're converting to no-till. It's not something you do for the 2 or 3 years and expect to see a return.
That's the one thing that I've always been impressed with farmers is almost all of them have a long-term view in their farming practices. They see it as a generational operation that they're going to hand it down to their children, their grandchildren, their great grandchildren, and they want to make sure that it's around and that it's producing well. So I can appreciate that. Tell us about the first time you met with Agoro and what you learned, what questions you had, and go through that whole process.
Sure. So in the magazine, I believe there was an email address, and my dad reached out, and then we had several different calls, video calls, just like this. It was 2021, COVID time,
Mm-hmm.
and we just talked through the different options of practices that we could implement. The ones we were considering were cover crops, no-till, and variable rate fertilizer application. We had some back and forth trying to define exactly what a cover crop was and what opportunities we had there. And we're so dry where we are. We're 8-inch rainfall.
Mm-hmm.
Cover crops are really hard to implement. We're still trying to figure out how that would work. But basically, it was talking through the different opportunities or practices that you guys could help pay for, and then figuring out which ones we thought fit.
So it sounds like this is not a cookie cutter program. They actually sat down to understand your operation and what made sense agronomically for your operation, and then came up and created a contract for you. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. It wasn't like here's what you can do, pick one. It was more like here's the boxes we're trying to fit, and you can figure out how you can fit within that box. Improving fertilizer utilization was kind of what we were trying to do, and how you do that. There's many different ways you could do it. We did it via variable rate fertilizer mapping, but and then the same thing with the cover crop. What we were discussing with the Goro, and we didn't end up signing and doing this practice, but something we're still interested in, was doing companion cropping, where we would terminate one of the crops and not take it to harvest. So we've done this in the past where we put peas with wheat. There's kind of a synergistic thing that happens with the root system there, and we end up killing the peas when we put on our broadleaf herbicide with the wheat. But we found that it doesn't hurt the wheat yield at all, growing the peas throughout the winter with the wheat, and we're adding some diversity to the soil. So, but
Nice.
they were on board with doing that. It's just that the financials didn't quite work out.
I like that they customize that Agoro customizes the programs
Yeah.
for your operation, that you don't have to try to fit a square peg into a round hole. How long you've been working with Agoro Carbon, and how is the process going so far?
So we signed up in 2021, I believe. There was a little bit of turnover in that time, and so we had different reps and stuff. But it's stabilized now, and we have a rep, and I know her by name and face, and
Mm-hmm.
I can call her whenever I need it. So it's definitely improved. The process for us has mostly been one, figuring out what we wanted to do, and then doing it, and then just documenting. So we've provided maps and all the applications that we've done to the field that we have signed up. It's all been in a spreadsheet mostly. I was able to export some things from my operations, like the shapefile for
Mm-hmm.
the field. It's been pretty easy, honestly. We have all of our data automatically synced for everything that we do into John Deere My Operation. So it's just going in, copying the data, and putting it into their spreadsheet.
So it's not too cumbersome or time consuming for you to gather the data that's required for the program?
No, I maybe an hour the initial time because I had to go back through a few years, but now it's I don't know 20 minutes. It doesn't take long at all. It's just I report our yield, the spraying operations that we did, the type of herbicides we used, the rates, and I have all that already recorded. So it's just copying it from one system and putting it into a spreadsheet.
Nice, nice. Now you've been working with Agoro since 2021. It's 3 years down the road. How do you think things have gone, and have you seen any payments yet?
Yeah, so we were one of the early people, so we got a payment. There was a sign-on bonus, so we did get at least one payment. I believe the other payment, I believe we opted to get at year 5. So we've got a little bit of money. It's not enough to go buy a no-till drill or anything, but it's definitely a nice new revenue stream that we've been able to add. I think the no-till on that piece of ground that we implemented in the variable rate fertilizer applications, I think are going to start paying benefits this year and going on. It's been the crops haven't been the greatest so far, but I think we're reaching the tipping point where we've had it in no-till long enough that it's going to really start paying well for us.
It sounds like you would have been implementing the no-till and cover cropping regardless of whether you were working with Agoro Carbon. So this is just kind of cream on the top, right?
Yeah. Honestly, we probably would have, but what I look at it is it allows us to enhance our no-till operation. So you don't just it's not just conventional fallow and no-till and it's black and white. There's very different levels of doing no-till, and one of the things we're doing right now is enhancing the section control on our drill. So right now our drill is 60 feet wide. We have 3 sections for fertilizer, and when one of those sections goes over an overlap area, it can turn off. We're now going to be reducing that section from 20 feet to 20 inches, which is going to make a small percentage improvement, 2 to 3%. But over the number of acres that people farm in our area, that makes a real difference. And so these additional revenue streams like Agoro, yeah, we were already doing no-till, but now we can improve our no-till practice and make it more sustainable into the future.
Nice. Now, you mentioned earlier that you have an Agoro Carbon sales agronomist that you work with. How's that relationship? Do they get back to you? Do they help answer questions? What does that relationship look like?
Oh yeah, it's great. Her name is Lindsay. She's in the same county we're in. She's extremely responsive. I've had no issues with anything. She's probably more wanting me to be more responsive to her. But yeah, it's been great. And we had an audit 6 months ago or a while ago, and Lindsay helped walk us through it, and it was pretty seamless and easy.
That's nice that you have somebody that you can meet face to face and
Yeah.
get questions answered and walk through the program. You're not just another number. Are there other growers in your area that are also signed up on the program?
Well, Devin Moon is, I know, and he's kind of in our area. He farms in a similar geography as us, and just on the Washington side. I've talked to a couple of people in my area that are conventional fallow and considering going no-till, and I don't know if they've reached out to Agoro, but they're definitely interested. And for those that are completely converting their farm from conventional fallow to no-till, it is a very expensive thing to do, and they'll need all the help they can get. So I think this is a great opportunity for those people in that boat to help cover the cost to convert.
As you meet with other growers and socialize with the other growers around, or if there's a grower listening to this episode, what are some of the key questions that you think they should be asking of their carbon rep, whether it's with Agoro or another company? What questions should they be asking, and what are some of the pitfalls that they can avoid as they get into this?
I'd want them to understand what opportunities there are. You might look at it and see, oh, there's no-till and fertilizer application, and just think, oh, I'm not going to do either of those. But just talk to them, and like you said, it's not one size fits all. They can kind of, if you have a practice that makes sense and will sequester more carbon, they can work with you. And so I think you should ask what things I'm interested in doing and seeing if they fit the Agoro what Agoro is looking to pay for. And then also just understanding the contract and how it works and its length. And it's one thing that we were a little worried about is we're looking to add a new field and it's on a piece of ground that's leased. We don't have a 10-year lease, but it's a 10-year contract. And so just talking through them on how that would work. The Goro reps are very helpful, can get you through that.
Great. Any other things or any insights that you can give for somebody that's listening to this episode and considering going with a company that can offer carbon credits or additional on-farm revenue through carbon sequestration?
Yeah, I'd say it's a great opportunity to lower your overall risk. We're all in the commodities market, and in years like this, when you have a great harvest and then the commodity market just completely tanks, it's a real heartbreaker. And so, this is a way you can help diversify your revenue stream and enhance the farming practices that honestly will make you more profitable in the long term, anyways.
If someone's interested in learning more about your family and your family farm, where can they go?
Sure, yeah. If anyone has any questions about Agoro, any of the practices that we're using, starvationfarms.com, you can find our contact information there and reach out to us from that.
You'd mentioned at some point that you're, again, on the cutting edge. You mentioned your dad's a cutting edge innovator. You've started growing durum wheat. Is that an uncommon thing in your area?
Yeah, it was a complete experiment. We couldn't even get seed. We bought seed on Amazon in a bucket, threw one bucket of seed into the drill, grew 1.2 acres, and it yielded amazingly, even made protein. I think it's a crop that could really grow in this area. There's not the infrastructure to sell it. So I'm currently selling it on Facebook Marketplace. I have several thousand pounds left to sell. I'm selling it at 5-gallon buckets, one at a time.
Nice.
So yeah, if you're interested in any durum, starvationfarms.com is also a way you could reach out and get some durum.
Excellent. Well, Andre, thanks so much for shedding some light on this program and how it's been implemented on your farm and some of the things that you've learned. Do you have a family now, kids that may be driving the tractor at age 6 or starting to get it involved in the farm?
Yeah, I have a 2-year-old. She's not quite big enough to drive yet, but she loves to sit in the cab with me.
Nice. Well, that's great. Well, thank you so much for shedding some light and helping us understand a farmer's perspective as they've been implementing some of these programs through Agoro Carbon. We really appreciate it. You've been listening to the Agoro Carbon Farming Podcast, where we bring you knowledge on how to sustainably and profitably transform farming through carbon cropping. To learn more about how you can become a partner, visit us at agorocarbonalliance.com or follow us on our many social media channels: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn.